All right, thanks for tuning in. It's a special time, and it's our privilege to bring in the Vice President of the United States live right now from his West Wing office. Vice President Michael Pence, thanks so much for joining us this morning.
Morning, Brian.
Mr. Vice President, first off, do you believe that the Iranians have done what they were going to do in terms of retribution for taking out their general?
Well, as President Trump made clear, we're ready for anything. But in the wake of the decisive action that really the president initiated following the attack on our military base on December 27th, we went in, we did airstrikes on 5 militia facilities in northern Iraq. And then, of course, the president's decision to take the leading terrorists in the world off the battlefield, the strike that took out Qasem Soleimani. We've made it very, very clear that not only does America have the capability in the region militarily, but we have a commander-in-chief who's willing to use military force. And thanks to his decisive leadership and the extraordinary professionalism of our military personnel, even in the wake of the Iranian attack, no American casualties, no coalition casualties. And as I speak to you this morning from the White House, we continue to receive word that Iran is standing down. But at the president's direction, we're going to remain vigilant. But I think thanks to the president's leadership, thanks to the extraordinary work of our military in the region, the world is safer today, and American personnel in the region and America are safer too.
Mr. Vice President, if the Iranian leadership, who sent those, we believe, 15 rockets into 2 separate bases, one of which missed the Erbil, landed in between the consulate and the actual base, if any of those rockets killed Americans, would we have responded directly?
Brian, I can assure you, having been there every step of the way, that when those Iranian-backed militias shelled a base, claimed an American life on December 27th, injured 4 American service personnel, President Trump made it clear internally and to the world that there would be strong military response, even a disproportionate response, if American lives were lost. We'd be in a very different place today if those missiles had hit their intended target. But thanks to force protection that the president dictated, thanks to the incredible professionalism of our team on the ground, as well as an intelligence community that gave us a warning of potential threats, no American casualties, but all the credit goes to our team, our military on the ground, because there's no doubt in my mind that when the Iranians fired those missiles, they were intending to kill Americans. They struck bases. My wife and I visited just this last Thanksgiving, but thanks to our preparedness, thanks to these measures that were taken, thankfully no American lives were lost.
Mr. Vice President, as you know, their foreign minister came out and said Iran took and concluded proportional measures. So that should make people at your level feel reassured that maybe rockets aren't coming tonight or right now. However, they have so many affiliate militia who they say act on their own. If an Iranian-supported militia attacks and hurts or kills an American, is that like the Iranian government doing it, and will we respond proportionally to them?
Well, you don't need to speculate about that, because it was an Iranian-backed militia that struck an American base on December 27th, Brian, claimed an American citizen, and for the first time in 10 years, under this commander-in-chief, President Trump ordered American airstrikes against 5 different militia bases, and we've made it very clear that we are prepared to respond militarily if militias move against us. The encouraging news is, number one, Qasem Soleimani was the principal contact and leader on Iran's behalf with those militias. And number two, we are hearing some intelligence to suggest that Iran is sending a message to the militias not to move forward. That being said, we're ready. As the president said yesterday, we're ready for anything. And any terrorist, any individual who will bring violence against or cost American lives will pay a dear price.
Gotcha. Meanwhile, so among the people that were disappointed in the 75-minute briefing yesterday, it didn't surprise many that Democrats were upset by it. You get the sense they were going to be upset by it anyway. But when Senator Mike Lee, who calls himself a supporter of the president and likes a lot of your foreign policy, said this, it really raised a lot of eyebrows. Listen.
It is not acceptable for officials within the executive branch of government, I don't care whether they're with the CIA, with the Department of Defense, or otherwise, to come in and tell us that we can't debate and discuss the appropriateness of military intervention against Iran. It's un-American, it's unconstitutional, and it's wrong. I find this insulting and demeaning, not personally, but to the office that each of the 100 senators in this building happens to hold.
And he did it later on prime time when he cooled down a little bit. He's very upset. He didn't give him any substance. He didn't say specific, here's the threat, here was the plan, and that's why we killed him. What do you say to people like Mike Lee who still are questioning why in a secure environment you're unable to give the specific information, or Mike Pompeo and the Secretary of Defense were?
Well, first, the President and I have immense respect for Senator Mike Lee. He is a great conservative and a great leader. But we've had differences on U.S. policy in the region. I know Mike and Senator Rand Paul opposed the self-defense actions that we've taken in Yemen, and we'll continue to discuss those honest differences of opinion with them. But let me assure your viewers, I was there every step of the way, and while to protect sources and methods, we're simply not able to share with every member of the House and Senate the intelligence that supported the President's decision to take out Qasem Soleimani. I can assure your viewers that there was a threat of an imminent attack. It was after those airstrikes the President ordered on those 5 militia bases that we began to receive word that Soleimani was traveling the region to make preparations for a larger attack on American forces and American personnel. It was real-time information that was developed. Right. The leadership in Congress, in the House and Senate, has seen this intelligence. And frankly, the most compelling intelligence to support the fact that there was an imminent attack being developed by Qasem Soleimani is, frankly, too sensitive to share broadly. It would compromise what we call sources and methods. But I want your viewers to understand that that information was brought to the President, and I couldn't be more proud to serve alongside a President when faced with intelligence that Qasem Soleimani was preparing to launch attacks against American military and civilian personnel. Right. President Donald Trump acted. He took him out. Then we took measures necessary to protect our forces in the region, even after an Iranian missile strike. No casualties, and Iran is standing down.
Mr. Vice President, did you make a mistake not informing allies that this operation was in action, not telling the UK, who have troops there, not telling other NATO members? Was that a mistake?
Well, I don't believe so, because of the sensitive nature of this. And let me also say, having been in continuous communication with the President and through our national security team, the movements that Soleimani was making around the region were developing, they were changing. And what President Trump made clear to the team was, we are going to take action to protect American forces and American personnel in the region. Everything else was second to that. The President authorized the action. Our military executed it flawlessly. And America and the world are safer today as a result.
I just watched the President's speech like many did yesterday, and one of the things he said, he wants NATO to help. He said, guys, you got to get involved. You got to help us out. You got to walk away from that deal that Iran has walked away from. Nicholas Burns, former ambassador to NATO, says this during a Republican and Democrat administration: the help is not likely. The President's failure to consult allies or take their interests into consideration will make it extremely difficult to get their support. Very few of the allies trust him and will not follow blindly. He's the most anti-NATO president in 7 decades. Do you agree, disagree? What's your response to him?
Well, first off, I would tell you this. The President said that we are going to call on NATO to do more in the region. We're very confident, particularly in the wake of a missile attack from Iran onto the sovereign territory of Iraq against two American military installations, that support will be forthcoming. Our operation in Iraq is in part a NATO operation, as it is in Afghanistan. And as many of your viewers already know, this president has done more to strengthen NATO than any president in my lifetime. Our NATO allies are now contributing more to our common defense than ever
but no
before
commitment yet, right?
In the history of our alliance. And the president is going to make it clear to our NATO allies that they need to step up more in the region. And beyond that, let me say, we are going to continue the maximum pressure campaign against Iran, isolating them economically, diplomatically. The president's authorized additional sanctions. He proved in the last 2 weeks that we're willing to use military force when necessary to protect our forces and personnel and our allies in the region. That pressure campaign will continue, and that's why the president is going to call on our allies in the days ahead to join the United States, to withdraw from the disastrous Iran nuclear deal and demand that Iran abandon its long history of sowing terrorist violence, abandon its nuclear ambitions, and join the family of nations. And I can assure you President Trump will continue to stand firm to bring our allies to recognize that reality and stand firm on Iran.
Yeah, 40 years they haven't recognized the reality, but we can keep our fingers crossed. Meanwhile, the Senate is waiting for the 2 articles of impeachment to the befuddlement of many, including Senator Dianne Feinstein and Blumenthal and others, Chris Coons and Joe Manchin, all Democrats. She has not handed them over, and they are losing patience. Are you guys hamstrung until the House makes a decision? Where's the leverage?
Well, look, it really is remarkable when I don't know how many times we heard the word urgent from the Democrat leadership in the House as they rammed through their sham investigation where the White House wasn't allowed to have counsel present, wasn't allowed to call witnesses. Then they passed a partisan impeachment vote out of the House of Representatives, and Speaker Nancy Pelosi has been sitting on it for a month. So where's the urgency? Now you even have Senator Dianne Feinstein saying if it's urgent, send it. If it's not, don't. But all of this we think just exposes what frankly a sham process this has been. It's a great disservice to the American people. The American people can read the transcript. They can see the president did nothing wrong. There was no quid pro quo. Ukraine received all the military aid, and the time has come for the Senate to take action that's necessary to take this matter up, to acquit the president, and to move on to the important business facing the American people, a stronger, more prosperous America. We're going to continue to focus on that here at the White House and demand that the Congress do the same.
45 seconds left, and then you have to get on with your job. But, Mr. Vice President, are you encouraging Mitch McConnell to pass the USMCA while he waits for those articles, or are you going to go with what he says, I'm going to wait till after the impeachment thing is ironed out? Your quick answer?
The USMCA is a huge win for American farmers, a huge win for American workers, while the House of Representatives dithers with their partisan impeachment. The Senate should move on the USMCA and keep this booming economy booming.
All right. Mr. Vice President, thanks so much for your time. We appreciate it.